What happens if you don't play with any chips that freeze time? We're talking about stuff like Area Grab, Life Aura, and all of the summoning mega chips, and a lot of the Giga chips too. That is what we're going to be finding out together with our good friend DeliBelly. He is hosting a $75 cash prize tournament. A big shout out to him for making this possible. We are, of course, hosting this on our Discord, and I'm helping to run it as well. I am so excited to break down all of the goodies that are going to be happening with this really fun format. It's definitely a wild ride. Let's break down some of the differences in this fun format that you'll see compared to a regular Battle Network 6 match. So right off the bat, your defensive options are way more limited. No Invis, no anti-damage, no Sanctuary, no Life Aura. Basically, all we have are the recovery chips, which are extremely powerful in this format. You might even see chips like 150J being used just because the J code is really powerful and it's nice to be able to heal in this format, as well as chips like Reflector 3 in the Star code, which is really good at fishing out for counter hits and dealing a decent chunk of damage. And of course, Risky Honey is just a strong chip in general. If you're in Tomahawk, you can charge it up for even more damage and take advantage of really powerful multi-hitting attacks that the opponent might use on you, like Super Vulcan or Machine Gun. Another option for defense is your Navi customizer programs. There's Shield, Reflector, and there's also anti-damage. Some people like to call it anti-magic just to differentiate it from the battleship anti-damage. However, all three of these are pretty much identical in certain ways. They have different space requirements, and they can only be used if you hit back B at the same time in baseline Mega Man mode. It's not really easy to actually pull off the back B command, and you got to be pretty good with your timing. However, it is pretty strong because regular baseline Mega Man is already really good in this format, because none of the attacks that you're using are freezing time, and because there are a lot of really powerful multi-hitting options. Counter hits go down all the time, so if you are in regular baseline Mega Man or your beast mode, you can get full synchro effects that can cause you to deal double damage for your next attack. This is already a really aggressive format, so if you can actually capitalize on your opponent's mistakes and hit them for double damage, wow, that's going to be extremely strong. And on the subject of counter hitting and being able to go into full sync, Beast Out is super important now more than ever. Of course, we know that the auto lock-on is extremely powerful, making sure that we can actually connect with all of our real-time chip attacks. But of course, you can get an extra plus 30 on chips like Super Vulcan to soup them up to deal massive damage. And beasting over is extraordinarily powerful in this format. Having one full turn where you're completely invincible and you're throwing out a lot of attacks at the opponent can be completely backbreaking, especially if you're already in that pinch. Most of the matches in this format are pretty short. I see a lot of them end around turn 5. Some of them can go a little bit longer, but still having at least one full turn where you are invincible cannot be overstated enough in terms of its power. And speaking of free invincibility, do you remember the color bug? We covered this in our Navi customizer bug tutorial video. Definitely recommend checking that out if you haven't. There are a lot of really interesting bugs in Battle Network 6 that are totally intentional. Anyway, if you have more than 5 or 6 colors in your Navi customizer, you'll have either 5 or 10 seconds of a random status condition. Usually it's something bad like being blinded or dizzy, but there is a chance that you'll start off with flashing Invis invincibility or even green invincibility, the kind you get from the chip fanfare. This is extraordinarily strong to start off with in this format because most of your defensive chips are already limited, and because the matches are so fast. Going up against an opponent who has a full turn of free invincibility while you're just standing there trying to awkwardly dodge their attacks is totally backbreaking. It's absolutely worth the small trade-off of having a blind or dizzy or whatever sort of status condition you can get without it. It's extremely strong. In fact, Bug Fix is the only time freeze chip that is allowed in this format because of being able to have different types of Navi customizer builds. I think this is a pretty smart and solid choice. And actually, on the subject too, Chrono Force is the only non-time freezing chip that is absolutely banned. Definitely don't consider running that if you want to be using Gregar. Now, we definitely need to talk about star code chips because they're more important in this format than ever before. You've got a lot of really powerful chips that almost every folder is going to run, like Muramasa, Super Vulcan, and all sorts of powerful non-dimming attacks. You really want star code chips to be the glue of your folder so you can constantly be digging. It's really unlikely you'll actually cycle through your entire folder unless you're in Dustcross or something. So being able to have star code chips to always use at your disposal is really powerful. It's kind of like a free draw another card, right? As long as you're cycling and digging through your folder, it's never really a waste. In fact, because there's no slow gauge or fast gauge to worry about, you can always reasonably expect what a turn is going to look like. I think that there are even some sleeper chips like Thunderball Star, which I famously gave an F code, an F tier in our tier code list. I think in this format, it's actually pretty decent because it is going to home around the field if you're in beast out mode. It basically jumps right in front of the opponent. And if the opponent is paralyzed, then you're going to be able to set up really powerful chips like your souped up Super Vulcan and all sorts of other really strong attacks. So again, having your Star Code chips are extremely powerful. Wind Rack, for example, is a chip that's even better in regular Battle Network play because you can get your area back or you can blow away life auras, but it's still an extraordinarily strong chip in this format because you're not flashing the opponent, you're giving them all sorts of pushback effects, so you can do all sorts of chaining together with chips like Lance that's also in Star Code. It's really just a powerful option in general. So again, don't be sleeping on your Star Code chips. I think you could even defend a chip like Recover 80 Star. Maybe that's a really hot and crazy take, but I think having a chip that you can always use that does contribute to your life total is actually maybe something you want to think about. I don't know. And of course, we can't talk about chip codes without addressing the huge elephant in the room, and that is the J code. You've got all sorts of extremely powerful options between Justice 1, which is that big fist of justice that comes down, cracks the opponent's panels, deals pretty much an unavoidable 100, every now and then a 220 breaking damage if they're right in the middle. This chip is so strong, there's not a lot of ways to actually deal crack damage to the opponent's panels. You've really got like triple shot and double crack, which are actually probably pretty decent because they are in Star Code, but again, you've got basically unavoidable damage. There's no area grabs to worry about, so you're basically always going to be hitting the opponent's side of the field, and they can't even panel return, so they are going to be stuck in place if they don't have air shoes or if they don't have, the ability to go into Tengu Cross or Beast Out in the Falzar versions. So that is really powerful, and of course, Destroy Pulse. Gang, program advances are not banned in general as long as they don't actually freeze time. We've got the full list that we'll cover in the end of this video, but still, Destroy Pulse is just as powerful in this format, maybe even more so than ever before, because it is a huge amount of damage, and you're going to be sicking the opponent with all sorts of annoying things like being paralyzed, having an HP bug, and all sorts of other nonsense. And again, I know I covered this earlier, but having the J code for chips like Recover 300 and even Recover 150, I think are pretty defensible in this format. The last important thing to bring up is comboing, and the best way to do that is to ensure that the opponent is not flashing. That's another way of saying invincibility frames or iframes, which is basically when you've got that temporary bit of invincibility when you get hit by a really powerful attack, right? Now, if you're using wind chips or most wood attacks in the game, the one exception is Wood Dragon, none of these chips are going to be flashing the opponent, which means it's really easy to connect with other combos. So for example, Corn Shot into Tornado is a really fun way to deal a ton of damage. If you didn't know, the Tornado actually deals double damage when it's on a grass panel, which does get set up with the Corn Shot. If you want to make that hit even easier, you can try following it up with a White Capsule, which is arguably the best chip in this entire format, because not only are you going to make sure the opponent is stuck in place to be on the receiving end of even more attacks, but you're also overriding the flashing effect that the opponent would have, so it's really easy to string together a lot of combos and attacks. It's extremely powerful. In fact, I would say that a Super Vulcan with a White Capsule at the end of it is probably going to kill a lot of people and ruin a lot of people's days. And the final stuff we'll talk about is, of course, actually the tournament itself. Again, this is run by our good friend DeliBelly. We are partnering up with them. We're running it on our Discord server, so make sure you click on that link below if you haven't done so already. We're a really fun community. We definitely do a lot of fun Legacy Collection stuff. We had a fun Halloween costume contest as well. I don't know. I could talk all day about that. But of course, it is a double elimination event. Now, this tournament is all taking place on November 18th. This is not a live event. I'm unfortunately busy that weekend, so it's not going to be, in those the format that we've done in the past in terms of me hosting tournaments. This is more like the Blood Moon events that you'll see at the N1 Grand Prix, in that all of the opponents are going to be doing their matches using Tango. If you need help setting that up, we've got a video that's really helpful for that as well. Again, Tango was really great. Big shout out to the N1 Grand Prix for making this wonderful program for rollback netcode. Again, we are basically banning every single time freeze chip except for bug fix, and the only non-time freezing chip that's really banned is Kernel Force, so definitely do not be using that. We've got all sorts of people who are signed up. I'm really excited for them to finally get into it. And if we were to look at the full event, we're basically starting at 11 a.m. Pacific and 2 p.m. Eastern. That's the same time, of course. Make sure that you're set up the day before, right? Make sure you're set up on November 17th. Set up your folder files and send them to DeliBelly. This is his email that's right there. Classic setup. Triple battle, double elimination, open setups, things like that. We are using Bingus with the international patch. These are all the specific things that are banned, and including the program advances. If you're like me, you may not remember off the top of your head how many program advances are actually time freezing or not. So These are all the specific ones that are not allowed to use. And of course, there are a few Navi customizer programs that are banned as well, just because they're just a little bit too good in terms of that. And of course, we do have a prize, $75 cash prize. Thank you to DeliBelly again for hosting this tournament and having those fun things. If we can get 2 more players, if we can get at least 24, I will definitely be supplying 2nd through 4th place some personal prizes from my collection as well. So definitely hope to see you guys there. Again, I'm really excited about this event. I think there are a lot of really cool events and things that we can get into when it comes to running a tournament like this. And of course, keep in mind we have a regular Battle Network 6 tournament as well. I will drop the challenge links down below if you are interested in that. That's going to be December 2nd through 3rd. It is a live event. No frills whatsoever. We're basically having a fun, solid time, and I can't wait to do a lot more, gang. I can't believe the end of the year is approaching. Anyway, I hope you guys have a wonderful time. I can't wait to see your exciting matches, and I'll catch you soon.